Hello everybody. This week we are getting actually into material. So the first week was really meant to get you acquainted with the class and Play-Doh if this is your first time taking an online class. I'm hoping that it gave you guys all a chance to familiarize yourself with everything that I've posted in terms of materials and things you'll be needing for the entire semester. Hopefully you went through the week one and were able to take a look at everything as well as post your bios. I've seen everybody posting their bios, and I will be over the next couple days responding back to those just to check in with you and say hi. I also use the bios as a way of just making sure that you actually are present and showed up for the class, so to speak. Since this is an online class, that's my way of kind of gauging that you're all here and didn't sign up for the class and never actually entered it. So I'll be doing that, so you can look forward to getting that feedback back. But here we are, and I'm open into week two. So we'll be going over chapter 1, which is the science of psychology. There's a brief overview of sort of the history of psychology in the very beginning of the chapter. And then it moves into the different theories and different perspectives that we're going to be taking a look at actually throughout the whole course. So you'll see things like psychodynamic perspective or cognitive behavioral perspective. And these are views of how to look at psychology. You can think of it sort of as different lenses of psychology where, every psychologist doesn't see things the same. It all fits under the same umbrella of psychology, but we can have different outlooks on a certain topic. So you'll be introduced to those in this chapter, and then they'll pretty much follow through the rest of the book as we take a look at all the main areas of psychology. You'll notice if you just look at the table of contents that each chapter is a whole entire field within psychology. So learning, memory, abnormal psych, or the mental illness portion of the textbook, all of these are different areas within psychology. So here we are. I have your to-do list, as you'll normally see. Please pay attention to anything that's bolded or in red. Usually I try to highlight things that are really important I don't want you to miss. Of course, I want you reading all of it, but those are meant to stand out and kind of hopefully jog your memory too. That way, if you're briefly looking over this later, you kind of know what to pay attention to. But let's go through here. You're going to notice that every week, along with the chapter, I post objectives, okay? Now, the objectives are meant to just guide you into sort of knowing what you're going to be expected to learn, okay? So you're not doing anything with these. You're not turning them in or answering them and turning them in. However, what you are doing with them for your own purposes is reading through them probably before you read the chapter. It would be good to look these over. Kind of get a sense of what should I be looking for as I'm reading, okay? And then as you're going to study for the test, this is a good use of kind of like for a study guide. So you could take each one of these questions and break them down, put in the answers to each one, and kind of use that to study with. It touches on every single area that the chapter covers. So I think it's just a great use of study material. I have posted a PDF of the first chapter. That way you can get started in your reading, as well as the preface of the Hawk book. So you can get started on that, which is the basis for our very first discussion post, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. So those are both PDFs for you. Here are the lecture slides for you as well. That way you can take a look at the lecture slides. I recommend, if you like, printing them out in notes format or like slide format where you have 3 slides per page. You can print them out that way, and then you can have them next to you as you're reading the chapter. That's the best way, because then you can kind of bridge what the slides cover and what the chapter covers. You're getting both sets of material to help you engage in what you're reading as well as not miss anything. Okay. So those are the lecture sites. Here are the videos that you're going to be watching. And I mentioned that all the videos you're going to be seeing are in my Psych Lab. So here's where my Psych Lab comes in handy. My Psych Lab is broken up into episodes. So within each episode, it corresponds to a different area or chapter of the book. Okay. So for this week, you're going to be watching episode 1 and 2, which is basically Intro to Psych and Research Methods within Psychology, all of which is covered in chapter 1. Okay. If we go back up and you take a look here, you'll notice, like I said, the beginning of the chapter, you're really covering different perspectives in psychology. You're taking a look at who's who in psych. What does a psychologist do versus a psychiatrist? What areas of employment would psychologists work in? Where would they work? What kinds of degrees would they hold? That's the beginning. And then as you see, you start getting into the research methods, like how is research conducted in psychology? Psychology is a science. We use scientific method. And there's a lot that goes into that. There's different types of research designs depending upon what kind of questions you're asking. If you ask one question, you might be looking for certain answers, and how would you get to those? Well, you would want to design your study in a way that is going to help you achieve that. So lots of kind of technical language in here. Spend some time sort of going through these and making sure you're understanding, what is a correlational study versus an experimental study versus a naturalistic study. What are the variables involved in each of those, okay? And then the very end of the chapter covers ethics, and so does the Hawk preface cover ethics. Both talk about conducting research with humans as well as with animal subjects, and the guidelines that have to be followed when doing that. And that is actually going to be part of your discussion question for the week, is going to touch on ethics. Okay? So go ahead and watch those videos. You can watch them as you're reading. When you're reading in the textbook, it will actually tell you when a video is applicable. So you'll be reading and it'll say, off to the sidebar, episode 1, or it'll say video on, and it'll give you the title. So you can do it that way. That kind of makes sense because you're getting it as you're reading, which is what I would be doing in lecture. I would stop lecture at a certain point, show you a video, and then continue. Or if you choose to just watch all the videos all at once, you're welcome to do that as well. I would just have your book open while you're watching those, because you want to be open to the section that the video is covering. It's just really helpful to have that next to you. Here are all the instructions for doing a discussion board post. Please print these out, have them next to you. Super important. I give you a rubric for kind of what I'm looking for in your discussion posts. I'm pretty good at giving you feedback as well. Once you post your discussions and you respond to other people's posts, I will comment on that. I will comment on it in the grade box. So when you click into your grades and you click into, say, discussion 1, you'll see your grade, and then you can see my comments that I had for you, which is going to be helpful because you'll be able to see, like, did I do something wrong? Did I need to include something else, or maybe I did something right and here's what it was. So that's just going to be really useful feedback for you. But the rubrics kind of spells out what I'm looking for in your responses, what they should entail. So please look those over very carefully before even attempting your discussion post. Otherwise, you could be doing it totally wrong, and you don't want to do that. Here is the actual discussion. When you click in here, it's going to open it up. You're going to open up a new thread. You're going to title it the title of, the week. So you can title it week 2. That would be fine. And you're going to be answering this question here. I told you it had to do with ethics, okay? In answering this question, you want to integrate in the readings. And so that's plural, right? So the Hawk reading, as well as your textbook reading. You want to synthesize both those sources into answering this question, and you want to cite those sources as you do that. So I know where you're pulling your ideas from, and it's also showing me that you're integrating in the material that you've been reading for the week. Here are some instructions on how to cite sources in case you're unfamiliar with that. In psychology, we use APA format, which is the American Psychological Association. It's a formatting for writing in the social sciences. So not just psychology uses it, but a lot of other social sciences use it as well. But it's just like a one-page document that gives you examples of how to cite if you're writing. So how do I cite a chapter? How do I cite a textbook? What if there's 2 authors? What if there's more than 5 authors? What would I do? So you want to look that over to make sure that you're citing correctly as you write. Lastly, you have a quiz. So at the end of every week, you're going to have a quiz just on that chapter. It's a short quiz. It's 10 questions, basically meant to just capture a snapshot of, are you getting this material before you take the exam, which would be next week. Exams are every other week. Quizzes are every week. So it's not going to quiz you on everything. It's only 10 questions. But you don't know what 10 questions you're going to get. So you want to be prepared, and you want to, have studied before you take this quiz. Now, again, my psych lab has practice quizzes. That's another reason why I have you get it. The practice quizzes in my psych lab, I do not look at. I can look at them. I can see if you're doing them, but I don't grade them. So they're just meant to be helpful for you, so that you can use them before you take the actual quiz. Okay, you'd rather do bad on my psych lab quizzes and not on these ones, right? So use those to your advantage to help you study. And we do have in Intro Psych at Westfield State a mandatory assessment. This is something that every single Intro Psych student takes. It's mandatory by the Department of Psychology, and we do it because we want to see kind of what you know before you take the class. We want to kind of gauge how much information you know about psychology and the topics in psychology. So it's a pre-assessment meant to take a look at your current understanding of psychology before you've engaged in the class and done any work. So you have to complete this. It's to be done by next Monday, so you have over a week. It's quick. It won't take you long, but you want to make sure that you follow all the instructions very carefully. You will be getting an email from Sona Systems. They're the administrator of the test. And when you get that email, it will have instructions in it of how you are to take the test. Be careful. The email might go to your junk mail, so make sure you're checking that throughout this next week. You should be getting the email sometime during the second week of classes. When you take the assessment, you want to make sure that you follow it all the way to the end till it says that you're finished and you get a confirmation that you finished the test. If you run into any problems or errors, you want to contact either Dr. Daniel or Dr. Camilleri, okay? If you don't get the email from Sona System, you would contact Dr. Daniel. If you have any trouble with the survey, taking it, or problems, you'd want to contact Dr. Camilleri. Don't contact me because I can't help you with it. They are the administrators of the test, so they're the ones that would know how to fix anything that is wrong. But that pretty much wraps up the week. It's a lot to go through, so take your time, especially on Monday, going through that. And please do let me know if you have any questions this week regarding the discussions or the material or anything, okay? Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.